Hello there guys, Elita Legionarii here, bringing you a 1 vs 1 for Total War Rome 2, and today I'll be playing as a faction I haven't actually used before. It is the Boii, and my opponent is Sparta. So, I have a very specific plan here. Now, as of this current patch... Oh, what the heck? Sorry guys, my screen just was really slow. Right, as of this current patch, pikes are a lot better now. Actually, initially on the beta they weren't so great, but I did a bit of reading from some other players and done a bit of games myself, and pikes are actually very good from the front. When I did this particular battle, I wasn't aware of that. I still thought they were kind of a bit broken. Pikes are quite good from the front, however they don't really engage very well, so they're very kind of cumbersome, which is they should be. They're not as particularly good as they were, say, patch 6, because they've still got that looser formation, but they're a lot better than they have been since patch 7, so I think they're quite good now, to be honest. But at the time I did this patch I wasn't aware of that. I still thought they were a bit broken. So anyway, I have a very specific plan though. I know that fortunately for me, I did think of pikes, that when pikes are in masses, even on the previous patches, they were very dangerous. So I still took a bit of caution, so thankfully I did, otherwise I would have lost this one. So what I've done is I split my force into two sections. I have, come out on the left here, I'm just going to pause this actually, I believe it was, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sword followers, and then I believe it was 2 Oathsworn on this flank. As we know, Oathsworn are extremely powerful. Then I had 4 slingers, 3 Celtic skirmish javelins, which are extremely good and very important for pikes. And I have 2 light horse, because I wasn't expecting much in the way of cavalry. However, my opponent has brought 4 citizen cav, which was a bit of concern, because I didn't bring much cavalry to deal with them, because really Sparta's not a cavalry faction, so I never really think to bring that. Well, I wouldn't think it very practical to have more than perhaps 2 citizen cav when you're using Sparta, and it's really only to get rid of enemy peltists that can hurt your pikes. That's my opinion anyway. But on the opposite flank, I've got two more Oathsworn. Now, I've got 4 Oathsworn, but as much as I was willing to spend on Oathsworn, because they're expensive as crap now, but I will need them, because Boii really don't have any other very strong. The sword followers are decent, but they're going to have a hard time against Spartan pikes and various other units. So that's why I got 4 Oathsworn. Then I have 2 more sword followers on this flank. Now what I'm trying to do now, wish the drawing tool was usable in the replay. I think there's a way you can do it by changing the files, which I might actually do at some point. What I was going to do is kind of shift my men up here to try and occupy the majority of his forces and then flank him, because flanked pikes are quite easy to break. So without further ado, let's begin. His army, I believe it was like 8 units of these Perioikoi pikemen, with about 2 to 3 upgrades on each. Then he has about 5 Spartan hoplites rather, and they got about 4 upgrades. Then he has a Royal Spartan as his general, and I think it was 2 Perioikoi peltists and the 4 units of citizen cavalry. So we're trying to bandy position here, and it ends up being fairly even. By the time we sort of get to this train, maybe slightly edged for him, but very, very minor. Shouldn't affect too much of the fight. So I decided to sort of shift around a little bit more. I'm just trying to get around behind him, so what I'm trying to do is go shift here, so then this unit's directly behind him, and the whole penalty of having units directly behind him affects him quite a bit. So I would draw some of my slings here. At this time I've been slinging away at him a bit, with pretty much no effect, if I remember correctly. I'm just hoping that none of this replay is a wee bit corrupted, because sometimes Rome 2 has a tendency to corrupt your replays. So I moved up onto this kind of outcropping, which gives me a bit of a height advantage, so a bit of a downhill charge. So that was a bit of my thinking there. I'm trying to shift around the flank, however I realise I'm going to get cut off, so I rush his units while they're not really got there, while they're out of out of formation there. That was deliberate. And then I'm going to shift this unit around. Now he sends his cavalry right through here to try and get at my skirmishers, which concerned me, so I sent my javelins down here to catch him. Not my javelins, sorry, my light horse, which, light horse is quite deadly, quite tough. It can take on citizen cav. A rather light horse, to be honest, so there's that fight. Which one of these, I forget which button it is. Oh, my sound. My sound gets a bit funny when I get up close in Rome 2 at the moment. I don't know why. I didn't used to. Over here, he does a really awesome job of javelining this Oath-Spawn to death. It was really, really clever. So I split my force up in 2 groups here. He does target the Oath-Spawn, which is smart. However, because I've caught his guys out of formation pretty badly there, I'm going to do a pretty nice job of actually doing quite a bit of damage, and I really hate when that happens to my sound on Rome 2. I don't know why it does that. Oops, my camera's bouncing. However, I've got a great outflank on him here, and I've caught quite a few of his pikes out of formation or in the side, and oh god, that's so annoying. I really do apologise. I've got to try and figure out why it's doing that. Maybe, I don't really know, maybe my sound options are down, but I've never had this problem before. Over here, I didn't do a very smart move there. I charged into these periodically pikes from the front. They're not really powerful pikes though, so I can get away with that. And because I've got an outflanking going on here, his pikes are suffering quite badly. Even these sword followers are doing okay. The Oath-Spawn are doing most of the work though, I think. Over here, I'm able to force my way a bit. And now my javelins can kind of just thrash his troops up quite badly. And I lost my light cav, but in exchange for 4 units of citizen cav, I thought it was a good trade. So if you can get you in more close-ups, that's better. As you can see, it's pretty close in there. His pikes are outflanked though, so the punishment for them is quite severe. So you can see here's some of his Royal Spartans, just general. They do quite well. Royal Spartans, expensive, but huge defense, good morale, and lots of armor. Means that they take a lot of routing, like a lot of killing to rout, basically. Over here, I just absolutely thrash his pikemen in the flank with my Peltasts. Peltasts are so awesome in this game. I love them. They're so awesome. I always was disappointed in Rome 1 that Peltasts were limited good. But over here, he's done quite a bit of damage to my infantry, but because I had outflanking on most of his guys there, the strategy worked out pretty well, and my swords were able to overcome them. I wouldn't really been too confident with that being like normal Spartan pikemen, but they're the periodically version, which is not quite as good. Over this side, I've got the side of his guys there with this unit of sword followers, so it's working out alright. This Oath-Spawn's a bit knackered actually. One of them's destroyed, and these Peltasts were doing them in. I think I took my attention off them for a little bit, and Peltasts will rip up anything, especially if they get a flank. Even the greatest of heavy infantry like Praetorians and Oath-Spawns. But he's got the same problem. He's having a few little micro errors like me, so we all do it, you know. Some of us are better than others, of course. But I managed to rout these 2 units, and I must admit Sparta is quite tricky to use, because the problem with Sparta is they only got citizen cav. So just amused there, Swedes being something or other. I'll have to chat to him in a moment. Of course, I'm not really actually reading what he's saying there, but I'm sure he's having fun. Oh well, you get your moment on the video there, Swedes. He made sure his presence was felt in this battle. But yeah, as I was saying, Sparta, it doesn't have much in the way of like its pikes and its hoplites, and there's no swords. There's very few missile choices, and cavalry's very poor. So it's quite a tricky faction to actually use, but it's pretty cost efficient, I suppose, to make up for it. Really, it's not too cheap, not too expensive rather, and they're decent units, of course. Morale's a good thing for the Spartans, which enables me to very effectively, you can use them, like, but I think they're pretty easy to stop, and the Boii's not like superb or anything either. They're not as good as the Nervi, but you know, I've got Oath-Spawn, I've got some Noble Horse, I've got some pretty good units. The Royal Spartans are pretty good actually, against my sword followers here. Over here I'm moving around to keep, you just got to kind of try to flank, because pikes are they're hard to control, like maneuver. Maneuvering them can be very, very tough, and ultimately has meant break there because it's outflanked. So just outflanking, so it's a costly victory though. You did a good job, and at the time, again, I thought pikes were more assailable from the front like they'd been previously, but they're not as useless. They're quite good now. Like, I suspect new boxing will become a problem again on the current patch. Well, not a problem, but it will be more prevalent. Whereas it was useless before, since patch 7 onwards, it's sort of, their pikes have been sort of buffed a bit, so things are better now. So there we go. There's the statistics. So very, very similar sized armies. Only they had 30 more men than me. I had about 400 more kills than him. So let's see, this Oathsworn here got thrashed, but this one 250, 104 and 82, they did very good. But also these sword followers did good. 157, 108, 159, 88, 83 and 135. They did very, very good. So they held out quite well, and I think, particularly when you mix them with a good elite unit like Oathsworn, that helps their morale stay. As you can see, 91 68 for these Celtic skirmishes. This one didn't do quite as good, but I'm sure if it had not been tacked, it would have done as well. These two light cav, I was impressed with those. They held down those four citizen cav with a bit of missile support from the slings and javelins there. It came together quite nicely. But if we check his guys, his Spartan hoplites didn't do great, but his pikemen, 97, 112, 82, 54, 89. So, they did better than his hoplites. So pikes are still very good from the front. His two, of course, his pelters, they did well for him as well. But his Royal Spartan did good, but that's probably just because it's got quite elite. But again, you're not really going to see like superb sort of kind of real mixed builds there with with Sparta. It's very kind of predictable as a faction, so it's tricky to use, but it's not too expensive a unit, so it's not too bad in that capacity. So it's probably a good supporting faction actually if you're using it. I'd say it's a good team faction. Like you could use your hoplites to help cavalry fights, or you could play a very stalling role or a blocking role and do some damage on the flanks with your other armies or something like that. I think it's more of a team faction. I just noticed this cav actually apparently did very well. Maybe you got some of my missiles. So good game to my opponent. His name was Han Napoleon. Had a couple of games with him. He did beat me a few times, but unfortunately some of those got corrupted. I think I will have a follow-up to this one at some point with him. So a good game to him. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I thank you for watching. See you next time.